Today's episode has been brought to you by OfferingTree.
If you don't know OfferingTree, they are an amazing company that is listening to what yoga teachers and studios need. And they're creating the best all-in-one software that I know of for wellness professionals. If you are wanting a simple and professional online presence, they will help you with your schedule, booking classes, taking payments, hosting online videos and resources, Zoom integration, email, website, and much, much more. Go over to offeringtree.com/Shannon for a special podcast listener discount. Hello and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. My pronouns are she, her, and this podcast is being recorded on Anishinaabeg, Odawa, and Mississauga land, also called the Bruce Peninsula in Ontario, Canada. If you are new here, you might not know that I'm also a mom of three, a yoga teacher, podcaster, and founder of Pelvic Health Professionals. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. You know the drill around here. This podcast was created for you, the yoga teacher, so that each and every week you are connected to the information and inspiration that is going to support you as you build your yoga business. Because I get it, leaving yoga teacher training and jumping out into the world of teaching and running a business, well, it can feel very overwhelming. There's so much to take in, so much information about yoga and running a business, and we're learning at a fast pace, and that is why the podcast is here for you. So you can listen while you're cleaning or gardening or walking or whatever it is that you can safely listen at the same time as doing something kind of mundane and learn on the go. This podcast is also a place where we choose questions that come up over and over again in our Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook group or through email or in comments on our website, or questions that we hear in person where we're talking to yoga teachers. And this episode today really has been inspired by the many questions that yoga teachers still have about what microphone to use when teaching online yoga, or what microphone to use when you teach a large indoor or outdoor class. So if that's you, today's episode is ready for you. Or maybe you're like me. When COVID hit, I stopped teaching in-person yoga, and then I just sat back in the wings and didn't teach for a while. And I actually kind of thought I'd go back to in-person. But this year I started teaching online and just loving it. So I had a bunch of questions about microphones myself. Today's episode is also here for you if you're wondering how to make your sound better when you're teaching online yoga. Ashley Hagen is our guest expert. She's a yoga teacher based in Paulsbo, Washington, and she gets super excited about all things that support an online teacher or studio. So she likes to talk about systems, software, and all the tech to make it run smoothly, including microphones. She's become an expert in what mic to use when you're teaching online, on Zoom, and also out in a big outdoor space. Ashley loves to share about what she's learned over the years of teaching online, and she's become a bit of a YouTube celebrity because of it. Her videos are very helpful, and so we'll link to the full playlist of all of her videos that relate to microphones in the show notes. I had the privilege of meeting Ashley in person this year at the Denver Yoga Conf, hosted by Allison Russell and her team. Ashley is authentic, she loves yoga, and she loves helping yoga teachers. I actually had a mic issue myself last week while I was teaching online, so I went over to Google to see how to fix this issue, and up popped a video with Ashley. And I was super excited because I've met Ashley in person. We've actually done a podcast episode. I'll link to that in the show notes. A much older podcast episode from way back. And so I knew that she was the person that I wanted to reach out to when we were going to do an entire podcast on best microphones for teaching online yoga. At the end of today's episode, I'm also going to share a mic test that I did where I compare my Blue Yeti, my AirPods, and my Rode Wireless Go so that you can hear the difference and choose for yourself which one you think sounds best. And Ashley has a really nice PDF summarizing everything. So we'll make sure to link to that in the show notes, and I'll let her tell you about that gift to you. Oh, and one other note, you're going to hear in this episode that when there's an issue that comes up, when there's a question, Ashley is more than happy to answer it. So you can reach out and contact her. We'll put all of her contact information in the show notes. But also, that is how she creates her videos. So if you have a question, it might actually be featured in one of her upcoming videos. Let's dive in, meet Ashley Hagen, and learn about the best mics for teaching online yoga. Welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast, Ashley. It's so great to have you here today. And I'm really excited that we get to geek out about microphones.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to this too, because I could probably talk on this topic for many, many, many hours. And I know I have in some YouTube videos, but it's exciting to be here.
So before we dive in and talk about microphones and what yoga teachers need to know for teaching online, mostly, maybe doing podcast interviews, doing conferences and online things, summits and things, tell us, what's the work that you do and who do you do it for?
I work primarily now with yoga teachers, and it kind of started with the whole microphones thing, actually. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because that's the starting point. So I work with yoga teachers to help them set up their online systems, how to teach online, and how to set up a business apart from teaching in person so that they can make more money. So people like me who are moms with young kids and can't bounce from studio to studio and class to class like I used to be able to, are still able to contribute to household bills and to make that impact that you wanted to make back, when it was all jumping around studios. So a lot of help with online teaching.
Now, is that since the pandemic? Is that when it's really taken off, or were you doing this before?
I was kind of doing it before, but I didn't know how. So it has taken off since the pandemic, because during the pandemic, or right when that hit, I actually owned a yoga studio. So I put all of my online work on hold to run the studio. And then I brought my love and passion for online teaching back when March 2020 hit. So it did take off a lot more then. I still had a good base, but it's not when I started. I actually started back in 2015 myself, and then have sort of dabbled in a few things here and there and tried and tested a lot of things. And now I feel like I was just like one or two steps ahead of people to be able to help them when COVID came around.
That's amazing. Well, I was so excited the other day when I had a microphone issue. I Googled, what do I do with this? And there popped your video. I was like, oh, I know Ashley. I'm going to definitely ask all the questions here about microphones. And also, you have so many videos. So we'll make sure to link to your whole playlist of helpful videos. And because we can only cover so much in this podcast today, and it's so helpful to have the visual to go along with it. So first of all, let's talk about when a yoga teacher says, I'm going to teach online yoga, what microphone should I get? What do you suggest?
So there's a couple questions I usually get. It's number one, what is the best microphone for teaching yoga online? And then there's, what is the affordable microphone for teaching online? And most people ask that first question, what's the best? What they really mean is, and affordable that I could purchase, because the best is probably thousands of dollars. It's going to be this whole setup. But most of us working at home, not having a studio set up, need something that's also affordable. And for that, I do usually recommend, and perhaps people have heard of this one, the Rode Wireless Go. That's usually the number one recommendation. But there are a lot of alternatives that are even a little bit more affordable, and the quality is still just as good. But that was the one that I found first, and I think it was the first on the scene, which is similar to how I feel I've become kind of the go-to for troubleshooting and some of my videos, is because I was a month ahead of everybody. I actually got this microphone in February 2020 before everything shut down. And so I was a month ahead in figuring this stuff out. And by the time I got it figured out, everyone was asking the question I asked just a couple weeks ago. So I made a video, and then I made another one answering more questions. So every time a question would come up, I'd answer a video with a video.
This is so good. I also hope our connected yoga teachers who are listening know that you could do this same thing if your business is like, I help people who are pregnant. When those questions come up, make a video or make a post or something to go along with that. Did you just point to yourself? I don't have to record this.
I'm 20 weeks pregnant.
Oh my gosh. Can we keep that in the podcast?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And by the time this comes out, maybe I'll have a baby in my arms. I don't know.
I don't know. This is a common question, so it might come out right away, but congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. And that's why if you hear me out of breath somewhat, my lungs are just compressed a little.
Oh my gosh. I have to tell you, that feeling. And I recently did a podcast interview with Francesca, and she said partway through, I'm quite out of breath because I'm quite pregnant. And it's babies really take up a lot of real estate that your lungs rely on. You've done it already.
Yes. Yep. This will be my second.
Well, that's super exciting. So
thank you.
To get back to that.
Okay.
That's where right there, you talking about a common thing that pregnant people feel is out of breath. Our yoga teachers who work with breath and movement could, okay, here are some good postures when you're feeling like you're out of breath, and share that in a video. So I love that you took that and ran with it. Now, the Rode is one that I started using. That's how I found your video. I think you said that you've done a video comparing a whole bunch of different microphones that yoga teachers use. Tell us about that.
Yes. I have several microphones, even some companies that see my videos and then reach out and send me microphones. A lot of them are a lot cheaper. Some of them I haven't liked, so I just don't feel comfortable even sharing them. But I did a comparison with the Rode Wireless Go Original, which I don't even think is available anymore because they've switched to the Rode Wireless Go 2, which is an upgrade. So this is a wireless microphone that you plug into your device, and then the wireless piece is the microphone you attach to you. So there's two pieces, the receiver and the microphone piece. It's not Bluetooth, so it does have to connect through a cable. And that's where the biggest confusion came in, but I can get to that later. But I did a comparison with this wireless microphone, Airpods, a Blue Yeti, which is like a stand-up microphone that you don't attach to you, and several others, like using my internal camera, my webcam microphone, using my computer microphone. And I have a couple others too, like this little Bluetooth microphone and some other ones that are under $100. I'm not a huge fan of those because the quality of the audio isn't so great, but I have done several videos comparing the two, and it always comes back to the Rode Wireless Go being the best and most crisp sound for yoga teaching. If you're on your mat, if you're walking around, when you use AirPods, it's a little more tunnel-like. If you use a Blue Yeti or a mic that is not on you, you're going to get a lot of fluctuations or echo with the sound.
Okay. I'm so glad that you have a video, testing all of these out. I started doing the same thing because in our yoga space, we can have a Blue Yeti in here because it's small enough and it picks up the sound okay, but the Rode Wireless Go just does such a better job. And lots of yoga teachers have been asking, hey, what about my AirPods? I already have these. I'm comfortable wearing them. I can move around in them, but you're right. The sound just isn't as great. Like, it's fine if that's all you have for right now. But if you're looking for better sound, then yeah, I would highly recommend checking out the Rode Wireless Go 2 for sure. And so then my issue was I wasn't able to adjust the volume when I went to use the Rode. And that's how I found your video. So do you want to tell? I realize it's harder without video.
I'll tell a little story with this. So I got this microphone in 2020 in February, again, a month before everything shut down. And when I got it, I was so excited because I'd wanted something like this for 5 years. I just thought there's got to be a way for an affordable wireless microphone. AirPods weren't a thing. And I really just wanted to not have to do audio and video separately and then connect the two in editing. And it just was so annoying. And I lived in a house that had a ton of echo. So I just put my videos out anyway, echo and all, whatever. But I would have loved a microphone. Fast forward 3 years or 4 years, and I find this one, and I'm like, this is the answer to my prayers. And I get it, and it doesn't work. It did not work in my computer or my phone. And they said, yeah, this is you can only use it with a camera, like a physical camera, or that's it. And I'm like, there's got to be a way. I scoured YouTube. All the tech people were like, you've got to take a screwdriver and take it apart. And then some of them were like, if you get this long chain of cables, it's going to work. So I got splitter cables. I got other cables. I was trying everything. And then it kind of clicked in my brain. I tried a ton of different things, and all these, I just had probably handfuls of cables at my disposal this first month. I was like, this has got to work. And it was, I think, beginning of April or end of March where I finally figured it out. And I didn't find it from someone else on YouTube, which is why I think my videos that share this cable connection were the first out there like this, because it kind of clicked in my brain without a YouTube video. So there's a couple cables the Rode Wireless Go doesn't come with that you need to attach to a computer or a phone. And the Rode Wireless Go 2 does connect with their charging cable, but that's the unfortunate thing, is that you can't adjust the volume. And I've tried, I've tested, and maybe some tech guru out there knows a few more things than I do. But if it's not easy and if it's complicated, I don't want to deal with it. So I was told by a friend that you needed to get this other cable. It's called the TRS to TRRS, like a connection cable. You can't see that, I guess, so that's hard to understand. But it's the Rode SC7, which is the cable that you can connect to your phone or computer. And I thought, great, awesome. It worked in my phone. It still didn't work in my computer. But my clicking point in March of 2020 was, well, if my Blue Yeti microphone connects through USB, then the Rode must be able to connect through USB too, right? So I tried it, and it just sort of popped in my head, and it worked. And I was so happy, and I was so excited to share this that I made a YouTube video on it. I didn't see this online. I'm going to make a YouTube video. And then that video sort of just exploded. I think right now it's at 50,000 views, but right away, that was the first video I made, and it was like 10,000 views and hits right away. Like, everyone wanted to know how to connect a wireless microphone to a computer or your phone. So that's how it came about, where I started talking about it more and more. And then instead of a 15 or 20 minute video, I made short mini 5-minute videos answering more simple questions. Like, exactly how do you connect this to a phone? Here's a 5-minute video. Exactly how do you connect this to your computer? 5-minute video. What about if you want to connect it to a speaker? Here's another 5-minute video. So I just made this library so I could copy and paste whenever someone had a question.
That's brilliant. Well, that's what I found. I was like, I can't adjust the volume. When I went to search for it, found your video, it was super helpful. And then I had one more question. You were like, I'll make a quick video for that.
Yes.
And that's such, well, thank you, first of all, for helping our yoga teachers who are teaching online and really figuring that out and then sharing it. Super important. Another common question that we get all the time is, how can I play music on Zoom and still use a wireless microphone?
Yeah, I hear this question a lot too. And the primary way to do it through Zoom is to do what's called an advanced share screen, where you share your audio at the same time you can talk and see the video of yourself as well. So if you go to share your screen, that green button on Zoom, it has to be on a computer. You can't do this on your phone. You can go to share screen, and then at the top, there's an option for advanced sharing or advanced options. And then you share your computer audio. So then you can share a playlist, whatever is on your desktop at the same time that you're on Zoom. Now you'll have to play with the volume settings so that you're not too loud or the music's not too loud or too quiet. So adjust those and kind of get a good feel for it by testing it out. The only other way to play music at the same time is For example, if you get the Rode Wireless Go 2 that has 2 microphones with it, you can actually take one of the microphones and place it next to a speaker or something else that's playing music. Again, test the audio settings. I've got a video on that too, and it's a how to teach a hybrid yoga class. So let's say you're teaching in person, but you also have Zoom and you want the music on both. You can set one of the microphones by the speaker, one of the microphones on you, adjust the volume accordingly, and away you go.
Oh my gosh, that's so helpful. Thank you. I actually just had a friend reach out and say that they wanted to play music with a friend who's like across the country. So that would work the same way. Oh, it's so cool how this enables us to connect with students, and sound is really important. Like when I was teaching this week, I rolled over, my shirt brushed against the mic, and and then my students were like, "We can't hear you," because I told them, "Tell me as soon as you can't hear the audio." So you also have a great video of like what to wear and how to wear your microphone. Do you want to share some of those tips from that video? And we'll link to it as well.
Yeah, that's actually a common question just recently. I feel like I've been getting a lot is, what do you wear? How do I avoid like my shirt brushing against the microphone? And I'm actually wearing what I would wear right now. I'm wearing it. It's just a tank top that's a little bit tighter, but what you want is this little microphone. This mic pack is like 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And there's a microphone at the top of it. You don't want things brushing over the top of it or your shirt getting in the way, because it can create a muffled sound. It can create just noise that you don't want. So as much as you can keep the microphone clear from that, the better. So I usually would wear this on a tank top of sorts with a low collar, clip it on. I'm doing this at the same time, clip it on so that it's not touching anything. And that's a great way for yoga teachers who are moving around a lot to use this without using that external, like a lavalier cable with this, because you can attach a lavalier, a lapel mic to it. But that also just means there's more cables and cords in the way that we oftentimes don't want to deal with. So if you have this microphone, just the clip piece, you can clip it to, I would say, a lower collar, not too low, but a lower collar, and just make sure nothing's blocking it. If you're using it in a way that you're just speaking to the camera, not necessarily moving a lot, you can put it under your shirt, would be fine. Just make sure there's like a pocket of air that's not touching, or the shirt's not touching it. Because as soon as it touches it, you'll hear the scratching sound.
Right. I'm guessing hair is the same thing.
Yeah, if anything hits it, you want to be careful for that. So tie your hair back, make sure nothing's hitting the microphone. There are some settings in Zoom that you can set to avoid like extra noise and sounds, and some settings you can set, but then you run the risk of also being cut out when you're speaking because it thinks your breathing is background noise. And so I don't typically play with all that stuff. I just make sure that the microphone's not touching anything. And if I go to adjust the microphone as I'm teaching, I might like rub my finger over it, and I'm just like, "Hey, sorry guys, sorry about that. I was adjusting my microphone," and no one minds. And I've had a lot of mishaps and a lot of things because I teach on Zoom every weekday, 6 a.m. Morning Zoom class. And I've been doing that for 2.5 years. So I've had a lot of experience with mishaps of the microphone.
What are some of those mishaps that you've learned from, if you want to share some of them?
Well, some common questions that come up is, my students can't hear me on Zoom. What am I doing wrong? The obvious thing is setting your microphone appropriately. So having it set in Zoom to the microphone as your Rode Wireless Go. And another thing is making sure the speaker is not set to your microphone, because the speaker is what you're using to hear your students. And if your speaker is set to your microphone, you're not going to hear them. So having the settings in Zoom adjusted properly, where your microphone is the microphone and the speaker is the speaker. So always checking every single time. The common mishap is that I forget to set my microphone, and then it's using its poor audio connection that comes through and no one says anything. And I'm like, no. And another thing with the Rode Wireless Go is there's a cable that you need, but if you attach it backwards, it doesn't work. So there's this Rode SC7, which I talked about, that you need to connect to a phone or computer. The black part needs to go into the receiver, and the gray part goes to your computer or phone. If that's flipped around, no one's going to hear anything. And I've had that happen. I've also had it happen where I forgot to set the microphone, and this was very embarrassing. I thought it was set, and during meditation, I had a terrible coughing attack, like just hacking. And what I didn't realize, I turned off my microphone thinking, oh, it's just going to be off, but I had forgot to set it. So the internal audio microphone was listening to me hacking as I'm trying to like meditate. I'm like, oh no. And my two students, this was 2 years ago, actually, my two students, they're still wonderful. They still come to my classes. They text me later saying, I hope you're okay. And I was so embarrassed because they just heard coughing through the whole meditation because I forgot to set my microphone.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing those, because I feel like we can all learn from those. And I think the other thing to remember, like when you're doing this, there are going to be things where you're like, oops, that was a mistake that I'll learn from. Oops. Like we all have that, no matter how. Like I look at you doing YouTube videos and all kinds of things, and you really know your stuff with microphones, and it makes me feel better if you're like, oops, I messed up on that and I just forgot to set the right microphone.
Yes, lots of things have happened. And recently, I've had my cables go bad. I thought my microphone was going bad. So I've been using the original Rode Wireless Go because I want to see how long it lasts. I'm using it as much as I can. So it's been 2.5 years and it's still awesome. But there was a point a couple weeks ago where I started getting a lot of fuzzy noise and it started crunching a lot. And my students were like, hey, we can't hear you. And I tried my other microphone, same thing happened. I thought the microphone was going bad, but it's actually the cables. So if that's the case for you too, where you ever feel like your mics are going bad, first check the cables. I found out that one of the connections was just hitting wrong. I replaced them, $10 later, everything's great.
Amazing. We'll make sure to link to all of the cables and the microphones. I know you're so great to link to all of your stuff. Also in your YouTube videos, you have all of your links there. Yeah. So we'll make sure to link to those specific cables. Mine are on the way. They're arriving tomorrow and I'm really excited. I hope I can hook them up correctly.
Yes. And I do recommend always testing with the device you have before you go out and purchase extra cables, because I found that with my new 2022 MacBook Pro, I actually don't have to plug it in through USB. I can plug in the one cable directly to the headphone jack and it works. But with my older computer, that doesn't work. So no matter what, get the SC7 cable. It's just like two little headphone jacks. Get that one because that's what you'll need for your phone anyway. But then test and see if you do need to plug it in through USB or if you do need to plug it in through USB-C or some other way. So test it first and then see if you need those extra ones. And the cables are usually, you can get them for $5 or $10. That's US dollars, but still pretty cheap.
Yeah. Are there any other questions that you hear from yoga teachers about teaching online yoga specific to sound? Or maybe there's other things as well where you're like, I wish yoga teachers knew this.
Yes. And actually, it's not teaching online. It's using a microphone for outdoor yoga to amplify your voice with a speaker. So that's another common thing that comes up is, I need a speaker. I'm teaching outdoor yoga. I'm not loud enough. What works with that? And I still recommend the Rode Wireless Go, except you'll attach it with the original cable it came with into a Bluetooth speaker. So again, it's not Bluetooth. You have to connect it through the auxiliary jack. So you need probably an older speaker, one that has that headphone input. So if you connect it that way, you're actually able to amplify your voice. And it's actually really good. And it has a good range. So I have a couple videos on that as well. So it's another bonus way that you can use this wireless microphone that's not on Zoom, but to teach outside. Now, it's not going to help you with a stadium of 200 people, but if you've got 15, 20 people outside and some people struggle to hear you, this could be a really great option.
Oh, that's so great to know. Hopefully, if you have a stadium of 200 people, there's an organization that's looking after the sound.
Yes.
That's so great. So it's not just online, it's also in person.
Mm-hmm.
And what about then recording all of this and editing all of it? Do you have things that you use for recording and editing?
Yes, I do. I love all of these questions, and not just microphone questions that I get, but then I get, well, how do I adjust the settings for Zoom for higher quality video? And how do I make sure that my video, well, quality and the automatic zoom isn't refocusing all the time? So there's all these little questions, and anytime again that I've solved a problem, I make a video about it because I know it can help people, because I also know how frustrating it is. And I'm pretty tech savvy. So those of us who are not tech savvy, I know are even more frustrated than I am. So I try to keep things really simple because, again, I'm not really an expert. I wouldn't call myself like an audio expert or a technology expert, but I'm a step or two ahead of people because I test things out. So I'm able to answer some questions. When it comes to editing, recording, there's a lot that you can do. There's a lot of programs out there, both for phone apps and on your computers. It really depends on the device that you have and what you're working with. So when someone asks me, what should I use for editing or what should I use for recording? The very first question I always ask them is, what are you using as far as equipment? Do you have a Mac computer? Do you have a Windows or PC? Are you working with iPhone or Android? Because that's going to make a difference. So that's the very first question I typically ask. And my experience is mostly with Mac computers and Apple. That's just what I'm into. And I find a lot of people are as well. But if you have something else, the recommendations are going to be a little bit different.
Great. Also, it's so interesting to me that you're saying, like, I'm not the expert, I'm just a few steps ahead. I just want to highlight this for our listeners because this is literally, if yoga teachers could remember that about yoga as well. We're trying things out. We're like, how does this pose make me feel? How does this breath make me feel? We're using things in our own practice and then sharing that with students. And that's how we gain the knowledge to then share with other people. It's the same thing. And I definitely, I feel like you're the expert in this. So to me, you've been using it daily for a long time. So don't be afraid to call yourself the expert.
Okay. Yeah. And on that same topic, what I recommend about YouTube videos, because I do work with yoga teachers to help them get themselves on YouTube too. I love YouTube as a platform. It's my go-to. It's the number one place I would choose to be if I had to pick one platform. And the main thing that I tell yoga teachers is that on YouTube, it's not about putting a bunch of classes up, but instead answer the questions that you'd get before and after class, because that becomes your studio lobby where you're answering questions rather than the actual studio class itself. So if someone comes to you before practice and they're like, okay, well, I'm 20 weeks pregnant. Can you share with me any tips as we get into our practice? That's a YouTube video.
Right. Oh my gosh, this is brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. Also, I want to ask you, because you and I both use OfferingTree and we both talk about OfferingTree a lot. So once yoga teachers are like, okay, I'm going to teach online classes, then what do you tell them about OfferingTree?
I tell them first to check out OfferingTree. Well, OfferingTree is something that I have been using, I think only since September. So actually a year. So about a year. And I absolutely love it. And before I was a mind body user with my studio, super complicated, way expensive. I've also used other softwares as well. But OfferingTree has made it so simple because it puts everything all in one. When I got started in 2015-16, I had to purchase multiple subscriptions to an online course platform, for my membership, for my schedule. Everything was separate. And then I had to also build a website to put everything inside of it and hopefully everything pieced together okay, because it was all just different and it was expensive. I think I did the math and it was like $150 a month and I wasn't making money. So with OfferingTree, it puts everything all in one, where you can sell courses, you can put your schedule up, make appointments, even build your website in that one place, email management, all of it. So I always recommend it as a starting point. And if you need something above and beyond for some technical reason, or you're doing fancy things long down the road, then you can move on. But this is such a great starting point and really makes it so easy to build a website in less than a day and then put everything up there and things you could start making sales tomorrow.
Yeah. What I am loving about it is that the Zoom links are there, the time zones show up for my students. Like I have my own website that I built, but I still use OfferingTree and I embed it on there so that when people go to that page, they can see the time of my classes in their time zone. I don't have to mess around and put times on there and go check, like, do I have those time zones right? And then answer 50 emails about what time is this in this place. And now I've just added also text reminders, which I love. And I asked students, like, is this too much? I'm sending you out an email reminder and then a text reminder. And they said no, because of the time zone. And, some of them are Pacific time and I'm teaching at 9:30 in the morning at 6:30 for them in Pacific. So they're really appreciating it. And I feel like it just makes sense. It just saves so much time.
Yeah, the primary reason I switched actually initially was because of the option to allow for donation-based classes. So you could have a free class, but also people could pay you without having to go through Venmo or PayPal or a separate step. So you can make it so that it's optional to pay, or you can put tiered pricing. So my class is free, or pay what you want, type in whatever. Or I have a little option to quote unquote buy me a coffee for $5, which is like half a coffee nowadays, but buy me a coffee. And I mean, I'm not trying to make a lot of money from it, but it's a couple $100s that I wasn't getting before each month prior to using OfferingTree.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. Well, it's so fun to connect with you about OfferingTree. Like when people say to me, okay, tell me about OfferingTree. I hear you talk about it. What is it? One question I get, and maybe you have an answer to this, is yoga teachers will say to me, well, I'm just getting started. So should I buy that? Or should I just, email everyone the Zoom link from my Gmail? Where do you find that tipping point is? Like, how many students do you need, or how many classes, or how much income do you need in order to pay for it?
I would say get it right away. As soon as you know you want to start offering something, anything, a class, it could be an ebook, it could be a digital product, whatever it is, start with OfferingTree. It's going to be your landing page, or it's basically your storefront, because it acts as your website. So it's your storefront, and yoga studios don't get students before they open their storefront. They open a studio first and then they get the students. So it's kind of the same thing. You've got to open your virtual studio before you get people in the doors. And there are a lot of ways that you can attract people, but you have to have somewhere for people to land and to be ready when you do get 1,000 hits on your Instagram reel, or 1,000 people asking you. So you want to get ready so you don't have to get ready later. You want to be ready for when the traffic does come. And with the discount that you can get, I know you have a discount code too. It's half off for the first 3 months, which in US dollars, it's $14.50 a month, which is like crazy cheap compared to everything else you would need. So to get started for 3 months is a great build and lead time to be able to build something and have it set. You can make something in a day, have it ready. And I've worked with OfferingTree where I created their 1 hour-long mini course for how to get started. So as soon as you're plugged into OfferingTree, you get that mini course, and I'm there to help you every step of the way to actually making your first dollar.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you put that course together for them, and that they're partnering with yoga teachers like you who are like boots on the ground doing the work, like figuring out the mics and figuring out how to teach online yoga. I just sent them a little video saying, hey, if this hyperlink was like a different color, like, am I missing something? And I know I can send this video of me asking the question and also making a suggestion. And they're listening to those as well for yoga teachers. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, their customer support is amazing from what I've found. I send them an email with a question and they get back to me very quickly. We've even done some video back and forth where I'm explaining a glitch, a bug in the system, and they were able to help me fix it.
Yeah, I reached out to customer support last week and they're like, oh, actually, you could just do this. And I was thinking, oh, yeah, I was trying to make this a lot more complicated. So that's helpful. I also have to say that what you said there about having a website, like quickly get it up there with OfferingTree, it's the quickest way that I know of for yoga teachers. Having that as your storefront, I want to highlight this because I think for yoga teachers, having it so that people can see your offerings right away. And I know that yoga teachers sometimes think, well, I need to make a social media post every single day for so many months, and then that'll bring people in, or I need to start a blog or make YouTube videos. And really, what you're saying is like, open the storefront, show your offerings first, so that when you have some content that brings people to your website, they're like, oh, I want to sign up for this, and they can, and it's all automatic. I think that's the biggest thing. What are your thoughts on like yoga teachers not getting their offerings out first?
Yes, that used to be me too. I thought, oh, I don't have anything to offer, but that's not true. So having something up that's functional and not fancy, just functional. Again, I think Amanda McKinney's phrase is done is better than perfect, right?
Yes, it is.
There we go. Same thing where you want people to not be confused. And nowadays, your website is not necessarily your advertising. In the past, it might have been, or if you're a local studio, perhaps people are Googling you. But by the time people click on your website, it's likely they've seen you on social media, or it's because you directed them there to start with. So they're not there to be sold from that initial look at my website. They're there to find what you have to offer and how you can help them. So make it easy. I think the rule is like 2 clicks and they should be at where they need to be. So 2 clicks to sign up for a class, 2 clicks to sign up for your free PDF or for your workshop. So make it super easy and functional so people know exactly where to go, because then you can use your social media to direct them to your website to where they can sign up. And as with any social media, you don't own your social media, but you own your website. You own the emails that you collect from your email management provider, which could be OfferingTree, but you don't own your followers or your subscribers, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Those could go away in an instant and you can't get them back. You could be in Facebook jail. Instagram could get hacked. YouTube can just get shut down for who knows what reason. And it's so hard to get that back. But if you start building a website that can collect emails and help you out there to have a list that you can own, that's one thing I recommend everybody do.
I totally agree. All right. Is there anything else that you would say to the yoga teacher who is cautiously waiting and feeling like, I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm not sure if I can teach online yoga?
I wish I could just say, just do it anyway, but I know there's much more to it than that. There's a lot of mindset that goes with it. What I would say is look for people who have gone before you and done it and follow in their footsteps, because this is not new age or a new concept. People have done it before. And if you're looking at people who have success in this, reach out to them and ask them questions, and they're more than willing to help. Listen to those podcasts that are uplifting and helpful. Listen to YouTube videos of people who have gone before you. So do some investment in time, usually, because there's a lot of free resources. So invest some time into changing that mindset and knowing that you are good enough to do this. And really, it's about just getting started. You have to put one foot in front of the other, and it's going to make you uncomfortable, just like teaching your first yoga class. It's going to be very uncomfortable. But once you do it once, twice, 3 times, it gets easier and easier and easier. And it's that in that discomfort that we find the most growth.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Oh, this has been great today. We'll make sure to link to your website and your YouTube playlist. And where can people find you? What's the best place for them to go to if they want to learn more?
I am on most social media platforms, and my website is Ashes Yoga, ASHES Yoga, but also a couple places. I have this, my YouTube channel. I would say if you're looking for this kind of information, you can either search Ashes Yoga or Ashley Hagen, and I will pop up. So YouTube's great. Otherwise, it's Ashes Yoga everywhere.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this today.
Thank you.
Connected Yoga teachers, sometimes right after we finish an interview, our guests have something else to offer. And this is where Ashley told us about the PDF. So I wanted to include it here so that you get access to it right away. The link to this PDF will be in our show notes. Here's Ashley talking about the PDF.
Well, actually, what I put together is just a simple guide, and it's in PDF format that has a bunch of links and puts kind of everything together that I've done in the past and that I've recommended in the past. And I put it into a simple PDF, and it's called The Ultimate Guide to teaching yoga online, and I can make it available for the Connected Yoga Teacher listeners if you would like. So that's something that I put together just recently and even worked with OfferingTree to get a little bit more help and tips for that. So it's something I'm excited to share. At the time of this recording, I haven't shared it with anybody. So it's brand new and ready to go.
All right. I love that it's a PDF and we don't have to sit and watch video after video. Even though we like watching your videos, that's really great. We'll make sure to link to it in the show notes.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Ashley. Oh my goodness. I learned so much from you through your YouTube videos and also through this podcast interview. And I bought a couple of new chords based on what you suggested here. And I'm really excited about teaching and being able to adjust the volume at my next class. That'll be really exciting. Connected Yoga Teachers, I would love to hear your thoughts on this and also love to hear your questions. So if you post those in the comments of the show notes, that's over at theconnectedyogateacher.com/290, or you can post them in our Facebook group. So search for the Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook group. And you can even tag Ashley because she's in our group and maybe you have a specific question about microphones. For sure, tag her in there if you do, or maybe you'd just like to share what you've learned along the way of teaching online yoga and what microphone you love to use. We'll also, as I said, link to that PDF that Ashley gave to all of us. Thank you so much for that, Ashley. And I wanted to let you hear a mic test that I did so you can listen to the difference in sound. So again, I tested my Blue Yeti, my Airpods, and the Rode Wireless Go. So here you can hear 3 snippets of that.
So here I'm recording with my AirPods, and I've got them on as my speaker and my microphone, and I can move around the room. Let's say I was doing something, moving. I don't know if touching the AirPods would then come through. If I was doing something, adjusting them. That's the sound with AirPods.
Okay, so now this is the Blue Yeti mic. The window is open and a neighbor's dog is barking. And this is me moving all the way back to the back of my room, the sound of it. And this is me walking towards the microphone. And let's see if I'm like down on the floor of the room. This is the sound down on the floor. This is the sound up here, closer to it. Okay, so here is with the Rode Wireless. Just the wireless, no lavalier mic. And I'm at the back of the room. And let's say I was going to move down onto the floor. And like maybe my hair would be moving around, or maybe I'd bump it by accident or move. This is me down in like a child's pose where I can feel the microphone right against my chin. And then me standing. Okay, this is me recording with the wireless again, but this time with the little lavalier mic. And I'm moving around and going back to the back of the room. And I'm going to get down on the floor, come into child's pose. And what happens if I like move my head right near the microphone, or then move to stand and then back to standing. I hope you can hear the difference, Connected Yoga Teachers, in those 3 snippets. And I wanted to let you know that I chose to use the Rode Wireless Go without the little lapel mic, like without the little tiny, I don't know, it's like you see people use them on the news, just to use the actual Rode Wireless Go clipped right to me. And Ashley does the same with hers. She's got some great videos on how to clip it on, what clothes to wear with it, all of those things, like she talked about in today's episode as well. So make sure to go check those out. And I just wanted to let you know my update. The reason why I chose to use the Rode Wireless Go is I think the sound is better when I'm moving away from the microphone. Now, our room where I have my office, I'm in this place right now, it has carpet and it's a nice small space. So the Blue Yeti will work. It's just when I move away from it, the sound is a lot quieter. And so I chose to go with the Rode Wireless Go 2. I also wanted to highlight some key things here that were not about microphones so much, but things that Ashley said that I want to highlight again. Ashley talked about how she just was 1 or 2 steps ahead and sharing what she knew about microphones. So it's not like she knows every single microphone on the planet and every single ounce of tech. She was figuring it out as she went, 1 to 2 steps ahead, and then sharing what she knew. The reason why I want to share this is because I hope you take this as a yoga teacher as inspiration. You just need to be 1 to 2 steps ahead of the people that you're teaching. You don't have to know every single thing there is to know about yoga, or every single thing there is to know about pranayama or anatomy. You just need to know 1 or 2 things more than the people that you are working with. I hear from many yoga teachers who say that confidence is the biggest roadblock for them to get out there and teach. Please, if you are feeling that, take inspiration from Ashley in this moment that she just jumped in and did it, and it's helped a lot of people. And what was really fascinating is Ashley was saying she isn't the quote unquote expert. And you heard her say that, and yet she is to people like me, and maybe to you if you tuned into this episode and learned from her. So it's the same with your yoga students. You might not feel like the quote unquote expert, but to your yoga students, it might feel like you are. I also want to highlight what Ashley said about YouTube videos, that it is like your yoga studio lobby. Answer the questions you get before and after class. This is amazing. And if you don't make YouTube videos, that's fine. You can answer those on social media or in your email or, in your Facebook post that you make. Don't think that you need to host the whole yoga studio experience, all the yoga, all the classes, all the workshops on there. What are the questions that you get before and after class? And how can you share those answers in the communication that you have with your audience? Okay, as we wrap up here, I want to share a big shout out of thank you to Deborah, who listened to episode 239 a while back with our very own Sinead O'Connor, who works on our team. Not the singer Sinead, although maybe she sings, I'm not sure, but our very own Sinead. And in this episode, in episode 239, we dug into how Sinead was feeling as a yoga teacher who's living with a kidney disease. And this was in the midst of some very divisive comments and conversations that were happening in the yoga world around COVID. It's a really good listen for all of us, especially if you don't know someone, if you don't have someone in your life who is immunocompromised. I'd say make sure to go and have a listen. But I also wanted to share Deborah's comment today because I think it really highlights the value of this episode. So Deborah wrote in and said, as a fellow yoga instructor with a kidney disease myself, and as a wife of a 3-time cancer survivor, this really hit home and is so much in line with how I feel. It takes so much courage to share as Sinead did. Thank you, my dear. Wishing you peace and healing. Thank God for our medical community. Thank you so much, Deborah, for this comment. And also, again, thank you to Sinead. That episode is full of bravery and just compassion for people. And it's a real gift. So go back and listen to episode 239 if you haven't already. We love to hear from you, Connected Yoga Teachers. So you can leave us a voice message from our website. You can share a comment on an episode that you loved, or you want to tell us something more or add to it or ask questions. Also in our Facebook group, we love to hear from you. And if you do leave us a message in some way, tell us about you. Tell us the yoga that you share and where you are and how we can connect with you, especially if you're leaving a voice message or a review on iTunes, because we like to give a shout out to you. And also you can send a link to your website or social media, and we'll try and include those as well. All of the notes that we have taken for today's episode can be found over at theconnectedyogateacher.com/290. Oh, and I have some exciting news. If you would like to hang out together in real time, Now, this is all online. There's nothing in person that I have planned for the rest of 2022 unless we bump into each other. But here are some ways that we can hang out together online. So September 27th, that's coming up really soon if you're listening in real time, 2022. I am doing a free workshop, which is being hosted by OfferingTree. It's called Getting Started as a New Yoga Teacher. So I'm going to be sharing a large list of things that I wish I knew as a new yoga teacher. And frankly, I want to tell you, I really hope that all yoga teachers check out this workshop. So I've seen some interesting trends in the last 20 plus years, especially in the last few years in the yoga world. And I want to call attention to some things. So I just want to tell you here, because you're listening on the podcast, I'll get real here. I have been venting and ranting to some colleagues, some fellow yoga teachers and fellow marketing people. And I'm not going to rant in this workshop. It's changed into, okay, here's the information that will be helpful. My rants, my vents, they're out. And I'm like, how does this apply to yoga teachers now? How can I take this and make it into something useful and helpful? And so there's this very simple checklist for us as yoga teachers. So I will include a link so that you can sign up for that workshop through OfferingTree. And I'd be excited to see you there. Also, another thing coming up that I hope all yoga teachers take in is November the 3rd, Jessica and Alyssa are doing a workshop. We are hosting it at the Connected Yoga Teacher. Jessica and Alyssa are both yoga teachers who are also registered dietitians, and they're educated in disordered eating. So this really, I have to tell you, it is a must for all yoga teachers. It's called Blurred Lines, the Harmful Intersection of Diet Culture and Yoga. And I want to tell you that until I learned more about diet culture and how it was showing up in yoga, I couldn't see it. I didn't know. Like it was like one of those things, like once you know and you see it, oh my gosh, you'd be amazed at how it is all throughout yoga as we know it now. So you might see it on websites, you might see it in yoga magazines. And so I'm excited that we get to learn together a little bit more about how this is showing up and specifically how we can take this out. And you will hear from Jessica and Alyssa soon on a podcast episode, so you can get a little more information. And then if you're interested to learn more, sign up for the workshop. I'll include a link in our show notes. Wow, I feel like I have a lot to tell you about this fall. Okay, so also in our Pelvic Health Professionals membership, if you teach to people who have a pelvis, this membership is for you. Here's what is coming up next. So first of all, some of you have been asking, how can I access the 6-week Yoga for Pelvic Health series? Great news. It's now available on demand. So all of the replays are there for you of the live classes. We cover breath, hip pain, pelvic floor, bladder, bowel, and uterus health. Our members who have been learning a lot about pelvic health, like really getting into the theory and the knowledge, they're telling us that this was the missing piece, seeing how an actual class is put together and how that looks and how it feels when focused on pelvic health, an actual yoga class. Also inside of Pelvic Health Professionals, we are having a member collaboration call this month. October, we're going to be learning about pelvic floor hypertension. Also, I'm hosting a 3.5-hour training, Yoga for Pelvic Health training. This goes along so well with the 6-week series. So in this 3.5-hour workshop, we're going to cover the basic pelvic health information that I wish and I hope all yoga teachers get to know. Then in November, we're talking about hypermobility and pelvic health with Libby Hinesley. Libby's been on the podcast before. And December, we're going to be talking about yoga for menopause. And I will be telling you more about that. And we'll have a podcast episode on that as well coming up soon. So if you are wondering, how do I sign up for all of this? It's all in one place. That's over at pelvichealthprofessionals.com. That way you can attend any live calls, trainings, workshops, and you get access to that 6-week Yoga for Pelvic Health series that I did. So that's over at pelvichealthprofessionals.com. Alrighty, connected yoga teachers, I love to give you a little insider information when you hang out here right until the end. So next week on the podcast, we are going to be talking about balance with Susie Hately. I'm so excited that you get to listen into this episode. It's a really good one if you work with anyone who is aging or anyone who would like to improve their balance. So I will see you back here for that chat on Monday. Thanks to our amazing team over here. Shout out to Suzanne, Crunch, and Sinead for making today's episode possible. Thank you also to you, dear listener. You make this podcast possible as well. Without you here, it just doesn't really even exist. And so I just want to express my gratitude that you've been here all the way until the end, learning about microphones and learning about teaching online yoga and hanging out together. It's really fun. Now, I'm curious to know, what will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?